In March 2025, a struggling Relativity Space received a much-needed investment from Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google. Some reports suggested the investment was around $800 million in size, enough to give him a controlling stake in the company. He took over the CEO position from the company's co-founder, Tim Ellis. He's been bankrolling the company since October 2024, when the previous funding was exhausted. The company was running on fumes and would likely have gone bankrupt without his investment. The company quickly shifted away from the original plan to 3D print most of the rocket. Instead, a more traditional approach was taken, similar to how other space startups build rockets. While still using 3D printing for complex high-performance parts, such as engine components, larger primary structures such as fuel tanks, interstage, domes, barrels, and thrust structures were to be manufactured through cutting and welding parts together, along with mechanical assembly and machining. Outsourcing of some structures, such as the payload fairing, will be used. Let's compare this new approach from Relativity Space with its competitors. Relativity Space lacks innovative technology. The company's approach to assembling rockets is now in line with other companies like SpaceX, which uses the same approach. It's hard to see how Relativity Space now has any advantage over other space startups who are either more innovative or further along in development or operations. For instance, Rocket Lab are well into the development of their medium lift vehicle called Neutron, although some recent engine explosions may push their first launch later into 2026 or even 2027. Stoke Space is working on 100% reusability, high launch cadence, and an active heat shield. Relativity Space, with its use of aluminium for primary structures and friction stir welding, matches SpaceX's assembly process. It's fair to say Relativity Space lacks any innovative technology other than its large 3D metal printers, which seem to have been a waste of time and money, and is some way behind competitors like SpaceX, Rocket Lab, and Blue Origin. Relativity's big bet on 3D printing has failed. Tim Ellis, the former CEO, wanted to 3D print everything. The company spent heavily on their Stargate printers, building 4 generations of this large metal 3D printer. This was one of the factors that led to the company's slow progress and took them close to insolvency in October 2024. 3D printing turned out to be unreliable. While it works for small components such as engine hardware, it has proven a liability, not an asset, for larger components. For primary structures like fuel tanks, 3D printing was prone to cracking and other defects, which would likely cause structural failure when exposed to flight conditions. Some tank domes were reported to have buckled during printing. The larger the structure, the more likely a defect would occur, wasting materials and time in either rework or post-processing, or in worst cases, scrapping of the structure and having to start again. In 2026, we can now say that Relativity's big bet on 3D printing has failed. Without Eric Schmidt's intervention, the company would no longer exist. Eric Schmidt rescues Relativity Space. As part of Eric Schmidt's major investment in Relativity in March 2025, the company enacted a 72-to-1 reverse stock split. This effectively wiped out existing shareholders and employee equity. It was necessary so that Schmidt's capital investment would allow him to take a controlling stake in the company. We don't have the details because Relativity is a private company, but it was likely very painful for investors and employees. To avoid undermining morale and to retain staff at the company, a new share plan was set up for employees. So what did Eric Schmidt see in the company that other potential space investors didn't? Eric Schmidt's interest in orbital data centers. A tech billionaire with an estimated worth of $35 billion has an interest in orbital data centers. We know this because in April 2025, he appeared at the House Committee on Energy and Commerce and talked about the future of AI. Schmidt noted at the hearing that an average nuclear power plant built in the US generates 1 gigawatt of power. He said, "People are planning 10 gigawatt data centers. Gives you a sense of how big this crisis is. Many people think that the energy demand for our industry will go from 3% to 9% of total generation. One of the estimates that I think is most likely is that data centers will require an additional 29 gigawatts of power by 2027 and 67 more gigawatts by 2030. These things are industrial at a scale that I have never seen in my life, unquote. Eric Berger, a journalist from Ars Technica, posted on X after hearing Schmidt's comments. This probably helps explain why Schmidt bought Relativity Space, unquote. A day later, Schmidt replied with one word: yes. For tech companies planning orbital data centers, having access to a launch vehicle is critical. There aren't many reliable launchers that can lift sufficient mass to orbit at a high enough cadence to make space data centers viable, and those companies will likely be supporting their own orbital data centers soon. Both SpaceX, which owns xAI, and likely Blue Origin will soon be launching AI satellites. Of the other rocket companies, every tech giant will be scrambling to buy launches soon, once they realize it's not possible to scale with Earth-based data centers, potentially leaving slow-moving companies locked out of launch. The solution is to buy the launch company, which is what Eric Schmidt has done with Relativity Space. You have to assume that Stoke Space will be next, but that's another story. The Terran R, Relativity's partially reusable launch vehicle, can lift an enormous 33.5 metric tons to orbit. That's about 50% more than a Falcon 9 or a Vulcan Centaur. You can see why tech billionaires would be interested in taking a controlling stake in the company. Final thoughts. Many of Relativity's problems can be fixed with money, of which Eric Schmidt has plenty. Given the potential profit for orbiting data centers and the difficulty competitors could face acquiring launch vehicles, it's a bet that could pay off. Do you think Relativity Space will be successful with their Terran R rocket? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this space video, consider buying me a coffee to help fund more episodes like this. The link is in the description. Space News Live is on Saturday evening or Sunday morning, depending where you watch from. The live stream is a great way for you to share your thoughts and opinions on the videos I posted this week, or on any space topic in general. I highlight the most thought-provoking comments on videos I've received, along with previews of upcoming content. If you got the time, please tune in and say hi. Be sure to like and subscribe so you'll see our upcoming videos. We make videos every week covering the space industry with an emphasis on the smaller space startups that aren't covered so well on other channels. See you soon.